Midline crossing matters. Midline crossing is the ability to work just across your midline with your hand, eye, brain, and there's no overflow. You don't stick your tongue out, you don't struggle, you don't do it only with one arm and not with the other, you don't get to the middle and swap hands. You can work fluidly across your midline and your body stays quite relaxed. That is not the case for everyone, and it can impact on the way your brain works. So that were we to look at our happy volunteers here. Here we are, people we're pretty familiar with. We've got Liz Truss. Now, the poor woman is caught up in being known to make bad decisions. And I can see when I look at her, she has considerable difficulty with midline crossing, because when she is being interviewed, etc., her jaw is moving. You get what's called overflow around the jaw area. If we go on to our other graduate of Prime Ministerhood, we can see that when Boris Johnson is trying to operate, he gets an involuntary overflow by sticking his tongue out. You can see in his Peppa Pig speech, he swaps from eye to eye. He cannot work across his midline. He will at times alternate one side and the other. I can go on to pretty much any school website and I can find examples of children who only work with one side of their eye, one of their arms, and they're closing off the other eye and their arms. That means in terms of the brain, there is very little traffic going from one side to the other. That is important. When they come to look at a problem, we often see that the right hand works on the right side and the left hand works on the left side, but when they want to cross, they swap hands. Literally, the hands do not work across the midline, and when you ask them to do something like make a jigsaw puzzle, this is a simple 12-piece puzzle, they cannot see it in their brains well enough to understand how to put together properly. So often you see one half gets done before the other. They are literally using touch and talking to themselves in order to give themselves clues to bring the puzzle together. They're not using their visual system. It's really important. Just think about the decisions that are being made for this country and the decisions, some of which are distinctly wonky. We look at Michael Gove, and Michael Gove is really important when we think about education. He spent a lot of time influencing education and being very clear about his beliefs. But he himself, when we look at him running, instead of moving his arms from the shoulder, he moves the whole shoulder. That's telling you there's a heck of a problem with midline crossing. That becomes yet more apparent when he tries to mimic Eric Morecambe, who has no difficulty lifting up right arm, left leg. When it comes to Michael Gove, he lifts up right arm, right leg, and then falls over. Can't balance on one leg either. That's quite worrying. And it's worrying because when one thinks about his education policy, my perception is that he is projecting his coping strategies onto the country. So he likes people to be extremely well behaved. That cuts out background noise. That's much easier if your sound processing isn't very good. He likes people to rote learn. I don't need to rote learn. I can visually recall. I have tremendous visual memory. He needs rote learning. And the problem is that rote learning is not high-level learning. And those sort of coping strategies can fall apart and cause anxiety. And we're not differentiating between what is good learning and good development and what is just getting through the test. When I look at clients, I ask them to copy shapes. These are the shapes I ask them to copy. I have them on individual cards. I show them the card for 5 seconds, turn it over, ask them to draw the shape. I want a nice shape that is symmetrical because that's telling me how well the two eyes work together. It tells me how easily the person sees things as a whole. And you're hoping to get pictures that look like that. And what you get is this. And so what this picture is telling you is it's saying this person has pretty much very poor short visual recall, maybe 5 seconds at the most. They're working with one eye. Their two eyes can't hold a visual picture because they can't remember what a Union Jack looks like. And these are secondary school pupils. They can't draw a triangle symmetrically. In fact, nothing is very symmetrical. So the two eyes are really struggling. We have a really big struggle when we come to draw a rhombus, a diamond shape. Not a hope. And so that is telling us we're probably operating in double vision. And the additional thing we ask people to do is draw a line across the page. And this person stops short. And that's telling me they're probably operating on just their central vision, which is only 5% of your visual system. And remember, the two eyes don't work together. So it's 5% that's wiggling around quite a lot. So visually, we've not got a lot happening. And so they're having to fall back on touch. They're having to tell themselves what they're seeing in the world. They're really struggling to learn. In this country, we are not checking children's basic physical development, and we're not supporting that physical development, making sure every child in the country has really developed proper bilateral integration of motor skills, proper postural control, and goes on maintaining those skills throughout their school years. We have no checks to make sure every child can sound process, and that can really affect how you operate, because sound affects balance, it affects motor skills, it has an impact on the eye movements. Sound is very important. We have no checks to ensure that all children can work with two eyes. So it's hardly surprising that our last few prime ministers have been operating with one eye. Let's make our nation fit to learn. Let's actually be able to see problems as a whole and make sensible long-term strategies. Thanks for listening.